We see it everywhere. Media tailored to fit our cultural backgrounds and unique experiences. From the ads we watch to the content we stream. I mean, think about it. Our social media feeds, the movies we choose, and even the products recommended to us are all customized to our preferences. So why aren't we taking the same approach with something as vital as preventing substance misuse in our kids? I'm Jodie Sweetin, and this is Awkward Conversations, where each week we give parents practical advice on how to raise happy, healthy, substance-free kids who are empowered to make smart choices. And today we're exploring how culturally sensitive prevention programs can be just as impactful. We'll delve into unique cross-cultural challenges, innovative solutions being implemented, and the critical role of community involvement and reducing stigma in a culturally diverse world. We'll also address the inequity of access to resources and discuss ways to overcome this barrier. So stay with us. This episode could be the key to understanding and protecting our children. And I'm very pleased to be joined by Amy McCarthy, who is out of Boston Children's Hospital and has been my wonderful co-host here for Awkward Conversations for the last several seasons. Welcome, Amy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Today we have Catie Drew with us from the DEA's Community Outreach and Prevention Support Section. She'll be discussing impactful initiatives like Operation Prevention and especially the Good Medicine Bundle. Hey, Catie, welcome to the show.
It's really great to be here. Thank you.
We are also joined by Tracy Johnson, Director of Training and Technical Assistance for She Raise and Associates, with over 25 years of experience in community organizing and substance misuse prevention. Tracy will share insights on culturally responsive strategies and community-led initiatives. Tracy, welcome to the show.
It's very exciting. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to talk to both of you. Tracy, I'd love to start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your background in substance use prevention and community organizing and what She Raise and Associates does? We'd love to hear about that.
Certainly. Thanks for asking. She Raise and Associates is a company that provides training and technical assistance nationally to nonprofit, government agencies, as well as faith-based organizations in the field of substance misuse prevention, as well as in the area of behavioral health. We are a Black women-owned company and excited to be a part of this. I have been in the field of substance misuse prevention for well over 25 years, and I ran a nonprofit called Martin Luther King Jr. Community Services of Illinois, where we provided community-based prevention services for culturally specific populations.
That's amazing. That's beautiful work. Yeah. Now, Tracy, why is it important to have, culturally responsive strategies in prevention programs? I think there are probably some people out there that don't understand, the differences that different cultures really have in their attitudes towards substance use and misuse.
Yeah, that's a great question. You can always provide the basic general prevention services, but good culturally specific prevention really focuses in on the population you're trying to serve and ensures that they connect, comprehend, and then go utilize those services later on. Good culturally tailored programs, in my opinion, have 5 basic tenets, or what I call areas or topics or domains in our professional life. We know that good culturally tailored programs focus on the individual, focus on that individual's family, focus on that individual's friends, focus on the school, especially which that individual attends, and then ultimately it focuses on that individual's neighborhood in which he or she lives. That includes the faith community.
How do you differentiate the culturally tailored programs versus kind of general programs?
One of the unique things that I've found in my work with good prevention, culturally specific programs has been the ability to make sure it enhances what that particular culture already is about, and what they know and what they can recognize. We need to talk about the things that are sort of strong in their community that they can connect with. So you have to really make sure that any good prevention that is culturally specific really binds itself on what is the culture of the community in which you're trying to attract. And we can do a basic prevention and say, this is your brain on drugs, but if that doesn't hit the specific population of African Americans, tribal communities, Latina communities, without doing something maybe in their language or showing their community the importance of how drugs impact them, and then it gets to the message that they can connect with.
Oh, it's about doing your homework and about making sure you're connecting with people in that culture and understanding their traditions, their beliefs, and the values,
and that they're seeing themselves reflected in the resources and the help that they're getting.
That is so important.
How important is it that the facilitator or the leader of those programs be someone from within that community?
It is best to go in with folks that can identify themselves within that community, and that the community can identify themselves with those individuals. For instance, in the Spokane tribal community, being African American, I can only relate to certain things that are from a cultural standpoint. But we got an individual on our team who was from the Native American population, who both helped us prepare, but also as they see him being a part of the team and presenting, it provides a more connectivity, if you will, to understanding and saying what they are saying has value because they value who I am and who my community is.
And the understanding of how it affects, different attitudes in regards to recovery, different attitudes in regard to therapy, in regards to what substances are more problematic than others. So many of that, those sort of cultural dictates really affect whether people will go to therapy or whether they're talk about having a substance abuse problem or, whether it's their drinking is even seen as a substance use problem.
And having people who has that basic background in cultural experience really adds that value to it so folks can really understand it and really apply it.
Absolutely. And if they don't feel that it's speaking to them, then the application is often lost. Catie, I would love to speak to you a little bit. We want to get to a specific Operation Prevention program for the Native American community that you work with specifically, but can you give us kind of an overview of what Operation Prevention is and what its broader goals are?
So Operation Prevention is an initiative that we began in 2016, and we actually partnered with Discovery Education, who are well known for doing exemplary lesson plans for schools and for teachers and students. And so with their reach and with their, fantastic way that they put programs together, but with our knowledge and content about drug and drug misuse and how it affects the body, we figured, what a great partnership. And initially it was just about opioids and prescription drugs. But then it expanded because we got a lot of requests from people. This is a fantastic program. There weren't a lot of great drug prevention programs, especially ones that were free. And that's the best thing about it is it's totally free. So then we came out with our multi-drug exploratory program, which covered 6 different drug categories. And this was a fantastic program. It covered elementary and middle school. Our original program covered middle school and high school. And included with that were some videos that students could do. We had a contest. And one of the most important parts of that was a parent toolkit. Because parents, a lot of times, they want to talk to their kids, but they don't know what to say. And so it was a great tool to say, look, here's some ways you can talk to your kids. Here's ways to start the conversation.
Yeah, and Catie might look familiar to some of our viewers because you have joined us on a previous season of Awkward Conversation. So thanks so much for joining us again. And for folks who want to learn more about Operation Prevention, you can do so by clicking the link in the show notes.
And one of the things that Operation Prevention also does is the Good Medicine Bundle. And can you tell us a little bit about what that is and what its objectives are?
So I love the Good Medicine Bundle. In fact, it's one of my favorite modules. And we were actually doing this program, doing this initiative, and we were doing it out in all over the country, actually, but definitely in the Southwest with our tribal audiences. And they came back to us. They said, this is really good, but could you adapt it to our culture? DEA went back to Discovery Education. Discovery then partnered with NIEA, the National Indian Education Association, to write the curriculum. The most interesting thing about the Good Medicine Bundle is it doesn't really even talk about drug use. What it really does is it's all social emotional learning. It talks about ways that you live your life and looking at how you live your life and the decisions that you make and different things that can help you recognize your decisions and help you make good decisions instead of bad decisions like doing drugs. And so it's used to complement the existing curricula that does talk about drugs and the science of addiction and how, substance misuse can affect the body, but it was written specifically for tribal audiences. And what's really great about it is, even though it was written for tribal audiences, anybody can use it. And it's got wonderful activities that are part of it that are used in the classroom, can be used at home, but it can also be used for anybody.
I love that you bring up that the Good Medicine Bundle really doesn't necessarily even talk directly to drug use, but it talks to all of the things that we talk about on the show all the time, which are really the foundations that will help prevent substance abuse and misuse, which is community, which is self-worth, which is self-esteem, all of those things that, are discussed, and it's less about the individual and more about the impact that you have amongst people around you. And that's really a lot of the essence of what we talk about is the tools that you need to prevent substance abuse and misuse don't start in middle school or high school in a direct conversation about don't do drugs. It comes at 7 years old when you teach them how to have empathy for someone or how to be a good team player or how to deal with disappointment or, all of those things. Like that's the stuff that I think people need to understand is really the key to helping with substance abuse and misuses. It's all those pre things that have nothing to do with drugs or alcohol, but have everything to do with a healthy sense of self.
Exactly.
Yeah. And making people of that community, in this case, the Native American community, empowered with knowledge and information that they can use within their own, in their own groups and in their own communities, which I think is amazing.
Cultural barriers to recovery and mental health are something that I don't think we realize how, can vary so greatly from community to community. And, if you walk into a situation assuming that everyone is operating from the same understanding or appreciation of substance or mental health help, it can often be very, very different. And learning how to lead people to the right culturally sensitive and culturally aware resources.
When we're doing substance misuse prevention in a cultural way, particularly when we do community organizing, we bring the community together and we say, what's best for your community? Here are some ideas, but we want you all to create what we're going to do as we outreach to your community, and what are some of the things that should be as talking points, what works best, and listening to them and letting them formalize that so it becomes their idea and their process. That's the strength of good culturally specific and competent sensitivity.
And one of those things that DEA did was hired a tribal liaison, someone who is of the tribal nation. The one that we have is of the Navajo Nation, and she goes in there and she works with the communities. She talks to the elders. She makes those connections, and because she's part of that community, it's much easier for her to make those connections. She also helps us to understand some of the culture behind this. So to me, having her do the programming is fantastic. And I learn a lot more about the culture than I had previously known, because she is so knowledgeable of it and is in that culture herself.
Tracy, what have you found are some common challenges in implementing culturally relevant prevention programs?
I think in my book, I think there's about 4 of them. One is cultural competence and sensitivity, understanding the diverse culture. A lot of times practitioners often lack a deep understanding of the diverse cultural background of the population that they're serving, and that causes some concerns. There's a lot of miscommunication and misunderstanding, like language barriers or cultural nuances. That can lead to miscommunication and misunderstanding between prevention, folks who want to provide prevention, and the community or parents who want to receive it. Secondly, it's community engagement. The number one thing is you got to build that trust. It's really about relationships. Good prevention is about relationships. Communities that they have experienced historical trauma or discrimination, they may be a little distrustful of folks coming into their community and try to say, I have the answer for you. Then secondly, on the community engagement, there's got to be community involvement. That you have got to ensure active participation from community members in the planning and implementation phases. So don't come to them with the information without them being a part of it. That's what I love about Operation Engage that we do with DEA, is that we're with them in the very beginning of the phases, planning it and then implementing it, because that could be challenging. Third thing is resource constraints. At the end of the day, funding limitations, sometimes having financial resources can restrict the ability to really get your program that needs to be tailored to that population. And after you do give it, you want to make sure that there's continuous training and education. And then finally, the last piece of constraint is, in my opinion, program adaptation. A lot of the programs and a lot of the prevention ideas, they're already sort of focused on a majority population. So you got to strike that critical balance between maintaining good evidence-based practices and prevention, but yet being able to adapt them so they fit the need and culturally relevant for that population.
I think a recurring theme among some of our episodes, is that one size does not fit all.
Right.
And, it takes a little bit of extra time and creativity, but it's worth that time and effort when you're creating these very individualized supports and
Absolutely.
services.
Well, making people feel heard, understood, seen as they are in the community that they are and that they belong that's one of the things that most often leads people to substance use, is feeling isolated, feeling alone. And so building that sense of community back and understanding them and seeing them where they're at, and reconnecting them to those things that maybe they have distanced themselves from, so those senses of community, that kinship with maybe, cultural practices or, faith practices that maybe they walked away from a little bit while they were involved in that substance use. Knowing what specific things are to each culture and what important things they can sort of hook back into is so important and so key. And that is not the same for every community. And it makes such a difference in making people feel validated and seen and heard. So I love that. Now, Catie, what specific challenges do you find that that Native communities, Native American youth face, and how does the Good Medicine Bundle address those specifically?
So some of the challenges that are specific to Native American youth include things like limited recreational services, educational opportunities, and expressive outlets like sports. And so when these communities don't have some of these things, they look to other things. What can we do to help solve some of these dilemmas? Some of our solutions include promoting community development and community involvement through things like talking circles and storytelling, which is all part of the culture that we deal with. Another one of the challenges that faces Native American communities is a lack of stable internet service. Now, Operation Prevention is an internet-based curriculum. So one of the things that we did to overcome that was to put all of the programming on a flash drive. And this flash drive is something that can then be delivered to the communities that need them. So they may not have good internet access, but they usually do have computers that they can use.
It's about overcoming those structural barriers to getting prevention and education to the communities that need them.
Yeah, you live and you learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome back to Awkward Conversations, and welcome to Season 5.
Saving lives means staying informed. Knowing the dangers of using fake prescription pills can help those you care about and keep our community safe. As a parent, educator, neighbor, or friend, we all play a role in building safe and healthy futures for ourselves and our loved ones. Do your part to take the first step today. Visit GetSmartAboutDrugs.com to access education, prevention, and treatment resources. Fake prescription pills laced with fentanyl are deadly. Be their protector. Be informed. Visit GetSmartAboutDrugs.com.
It's Season 5 of Awkward Conversations. Let's get into it.
Now, Tracy, can you give some examples of some successful community-led initiatives that you've had, and how parental involvement plays a role, and how you have helped engage parents in some of your community building?
I've been honored to work in communities last 20 plus years in different areas that really engages communities to really focus in on what's best for the child. And I call them centers of excellence, and that's the word according to Tracy. It's nothing researched about it, but because of my work in the last 25 plus years, I've been blessed to be around communities that have shown me some really extremely good work in working with parents. One is the city of Milwaukee, where they brought together parents, local government, community members to really identify and best practice strategies where parents are really a live part of what they do. And every year they do events specifically for parents to participate and give them information they can take back home that really gives them ideas about talking to their child about substances, or giving them strong self-esteem and giving them the importance of having communication skills so they can feel comfortable about talking with their child and their child talking back with them. And there's another one in Miami with an organization that I work with called Gang Alternatives Inc. And they provide a real strong model where they actively get parents involved in the Caribbean Afro-American community in Miami, where the parents are really involved with the strategy, the planning, and the implementation of parent-led focus groups and meetings for their after-school programs and the tutoring programs that their students and their children participate in. They are focus-led, they're engaged, and they provide the best way to get people involved, particularly parents, to really understand that. And then secondly, I think one of the things I've learned through this whole idea is that parents need to understand that even in education, there's this law that parents don't know about. It's called Every Student Succeed Act, or ESSA, as we call it. And ESSA is built to make sure that parents are involved. So every school building in the nation that is getting public funds, federal funds, have to follow the ESSA requirements. And that is, get parents involved from the very beginning. And that's critical for good prevention. Parents should know when they talk to their schools, ask them, what is the school doing around the Every Student Succeed Act and getting parent involvement?
Absolutely. I find even just going into my, when I'm picking up the kids or dropping them off, just popping into the counseling office, there's always all manner of flyers and posters and Zoom meetings for parent education. There is a lot happening and it feels overwhelming. I know sometimes I'm like, there's so much, but your school is an excellent resource for in-person, online resources that are, again, going to be tailored probably more specifically to the community that you live in, if that's the school that your child is attending. And then you're also connecting with your school counselors, your school teachers, seeing those faces of those other adults that are involved in your kids' lives and really learning about all of the opportunities that are available to you.
And, uniquely, a lot of the parents in the higher risk schools where parents didn't have a good connection with their school when they were young.
Tracy, I think it's a good opportunity to highlight is that, again, parents need help and support and deserve help and support.
Yes.
I think so often I see parents coming to me saying, my child needs help. Like, what can I do to help my child? And I think so often it's like, let's start with what you need.
One of the things that we talked about in regards to the ESSA Act and knowing your rights, if you are at a school and your student needs extra support, whether it's in the academic area, whether it's in counseling, whether it's with substance use, if you feel that you are not getting the response or the attention that your kid needs, you have every right as a parent to go to your school and say, I want to talk to this person. This is what my child needs. And it's a lot. It's overwhelming to take in all of this information as a parent, but it's really important to know that if you see that your child, that you've asked for services or that you have asked for help in a certain area, and you don't feel that it is being given to your child or to your family in a way that best serves them, you can ask for more. You can ask for help. You have the right to do that. If you just feel people are sort of going, yep, check that box. Yeah, we did that. Ask for more. It's okay. It's okay to be the squeaky wheel when it comes to asking for, help and consideration in a way that best serves you, your family, and your community.
And I think, most people, I think, are really dedicated and working really hard to ensure that, young people's rights and families' rights are met. But of course, you are going to come across sometimes people who are unaware, right, or who maybe are kind of checking the box. So when you ask those questions, like, who puts them on notice a little bit? Yeah. Like, I also think another thing that parents can do when they're wondering, like, this doesn't maybe seem right or something seems off, Googling like terms like student advocacy in my area or kind of legal kind of support can help kind of start, pushing you in a certain direction to get those answers, those questions answered.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, one of the things that we have to discuss and one of the things that we acknowledge here is that some of the conversations we have obviously come from a place of privilege and a place of, having resources and things that are easily accessible to us. But Tracy, can you address, sort of access inequities and in prevention resources and how we can help parents who may be facing some of those inequities? How do we help them access the resources that they need and give them the opportunity to find that information for themselves?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, we have to, a lot of times in our prevention world that we do, we have to expand what I call our geographic reach. We have to use methodologies like we're doing today, or doing, using prevention programs online, or using the idea that we can go, especially those in remote communities, we can provide some sort of community training, community counseling, community education by going directly to a local community building or a local faith-based organization that a lot of times that reduces that access to inequities. A lot of times we also have to look at some people think that it costs dollars to get prevention programs or prevention training. There is no cost most of the time. And also we have to look at the whole idea of cultural language and language inclusivity. The idea that I think good prevention programs, that really culturally tailored programs that are culturally relevant and sensitive to speak to specific needs and traditions of each of the communities they're trying to serve, maybe using multilingual resources. I see communities around, particularly around in urban communities like Chicago, Detroit, New Mexico State, in El Paso, in Texas, and in the Dallas area, where they use multilingual materials. And then also, there's some cultural competency training for the folks that need it. I mean, one of the things that we always assume that the providers that are doing good prevention, substance misuse prevention, are culturally competent in training. And then it's improving awareness and education. I think a lot of the communities don't really think about the importance of community outreach, going to where the folks are, going to where they are and talking about and utilizing prevention resources, using what they know as their local media. It may not be the number one radio or television station that we see normally. It might be a community radio station, a community newspaper, or a community event that they mostly read or listen to. We have to know who that is and do community outreach. Provide those educational workshops. I think that's important. And then finally, look at anti-stigma campaigns. And that's one of the things we're talking about most of our training around that today, is that a lot of the prevention work that most of these individuals receive, that the stigma was not taken up. So we have to figure out how to reduce the word that cause stigma around substance misuse and substance misuse prevention. And that's critical. And at the end of the day, I always ask the folks at the national level to look at policy advocacy, that important piece to make sure that they look at really making it a part of the everyday world of how we reduce stigma and the words we use, how we perform our work to communities, and giving parents the type of information they need to be effective with their child.
and understanding that the words we use and the language that we use to talk to different communities is incredibly important, and it can either, uphold stigma and, values that prevent people from getting help, or we can learn how to use our words in order to further move that forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A reminder, like that we're having this conversation about reducing substance use because we're trying to reduce difficult kind of outcomes for young people, but it's not about villainizing or vilifying or demoralizing people who are using substances.
Not at all.
This is a brain disorder, and it's very difficult to contend with for sure. Empathy. We've talked a lot about empathy this season, and having empathy for people who are struggling with this.
Understanding for people who are within your cultural community, who are in a different multicultural community, who are struggling with addiction, who are, have a family member, a parent struggling with addiction. All these things are so important and affect each community so differently. And it's really important that we are cognizant of helping lead each community toward being the happiest, healthiest, most whole that they can be within the framework of the values and the community that is important to them. So Tracy and Catie, thank you so much for everything you do in the community and helping, with substance use, misuse and abuse programs, and also with really connecting cross-culturally to so many people to make sure that, everybody has the ability to be the best version of themselves and to be the best parent and to help their kids grow into the best versions of themselves that they can be.
Thanks for allowing us to be allowing me to be a part of this. I appreciate the opportunity. I think this is really important to communities and to parents. I just want to applaud Awkward Conversations for having this opportunity to speak to you all and to provide information to parents nationally.
Thank you all so much for having me. We at DEA are dedicated to doing prevention programming, and we're so happy to partner with the Awkward Conversations Initiative. Thank you so much.
And it's thanks to people like Catie and Tracy and so many others who take just incredibly important, but sometimes small steps to make sure that everyone has resources that they need and access to all of those things. Even something as simple as putting a program on a USB stick because the internet isn't great. Small acts of caring like that really help people find information and the resources they need. So thank you so much for joining us today on Awkward Conversations. I just love talking to you all. And thank you again, Amy, for joining me in studio for Awkward Conversations. And make sure that you're following us on YouTube so that you can check out all of our episodes from previous seasons and from this current season so that you can help talk to your kids about those awkward conversations.
That's it for today's episode of Awkward Conversations. I'm Jodie Sweetin. I'll see you next time. Parenting can feel like a battlefield sometimes, but imagine doing it while your partner's away and often unreachable for long stretches. You've moved 3 times in 2 years, and your kids are starting over in a new school again. No, this isn't life in witness protection. It's the reality for many military families. According to the U.S. Army's own stats, 30% of military-connected kids experience anxiety or depression after deployments, but they also have incredible strengths. Studies show that these kids develop above-average adaptability, problem-solving skills, and resilience that serve them throughout life.
I would probably say that the resilience in the military families, it is extraordinary, and you can lean into routines and structure. They provide a sense of stability when everything else feels uncertain. That structure in routine creates that foundation that they can depend on, they can count on.
And that's something that's applicable to all families, not just military families. The ideas of resilience, the ideas of routine building. I mean, that's something that we've talked about in almost every episode is, that consistency.
In fact, we know that military-connected youth are 2 times more likely to experience anxiety than their civilian peers in many ways, and that the frequent relocations can be associated with a 15% higher risk, in depressive symptoms.
65% of the military families feel isolated after a move. But when they connect with civic groups like the Elks, the isolation drops dramatically. We bring a sense of belonging, and that belonging is priceless.
Make sure to check out GetSmartAboutDrugs.com. Parents, caregivers, you can find so many resources of great information there about how to talk to your kids and make these conversations a little less awkward. A huge thank you to the Elks DAP, which is the largest all-volunteer nationwide drug awareness program, and also a huge thanks to the DEA for their outreach program and for making this possible.
The views, information, or opinions expressed during the Awkward Conversation series are solely those of the individuals, speakers, commentators, experts, and/or hosts involved, and do not necessarily reflect nor represent those of the production, associates, or broadcaster, or any of its employees. Production is not responsible and does not verify for accuracy any of the information contained in the series available for viewing. The primary purpose of this series is to educate and inform. This series does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. This series is available for private, non-commercial commercial use only. The production, broadcaster, or its channel cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.